Hello again, welcome back. We'll be having a look at the All Island Strategic Rail Review again. This is my second attempt at recording because I just spent half an hour recording this and I realized at the end that my microphone is muted the whole time. But nevertheless, we'll continue. This is Chapter 4, Recommendations. So this is a fairly long chapter, so I'm going to break this up into one video per part. And I think there's about 67 parts of this chapter. Because it's like 25 to 30 pages long. It's just way too much for one video. And this is, not sure what train this is. I think what immediately came to mind when I saw this was that it reminded me of the Cork commuter rail service, the one that goes out to Cove and Middleton. Not really sure. If anyone knows what it is, let me know. But it's a cute little bridge. Anyway. So the introduction. This chapter presents plausible choices for policymakers that, together, provide a route to achieving the review's goals and objectives. In doing so, this chapter presents a set of recommendations and summarizes the case for taking them forward to the next stage of development. As stated in the introduction to this report, the recommendations provided below do not represent official policy for either jurisdiction, but aim to provide a constructive, evidence-based approach for delivering the goals and objectives of this review. That's a key point. It's not official policy for either the North, the government of the North, or the government of the Republic of Ireland. I personally, and I think a lot of other people, would like to see these recommendations taken on board and implemented. But for the moment, they're purely recommendations as of December 2023. Furthermore, this report does not make firm recommendations about the timing for delivering options, although a plausible roadmap is presented in Chapter 6. I'm looking forward to seeing that. This is about where I stopped reading when I was reading this myself, and I decided, look, if I'm commentating to myself anyway, might as well record it and put it on YouTube. Ultimately, it will be for policymakers in both jurisdictions to decide which of the plausible options presented in this chapter should be taken forward at any time. In total, the review examined over 70 geographically specific options and assessed their feasibility, economic viability, and contribution to the review's goals and objectives. Around half of these options were progressed and are presented in this chapter. The appendix provides details about the process this review followed to develop its recommendations and explains why some options were not progressed. Further details about the options that were considered but ruled out as options are also provided in the appendix. We're looking forward to having a look at that appendix later. 70 options is a lot, even if only half are taken or progress, I should say, not necessarily taken on board because these are recommendations after all. But even if only half are progressed, it's still quite a lot of recommendations to give. It's good. Alright, so presentation of recommendations. In this chapter, recommendations are presented by themes, which broadly align to the review's goals and objectives. Table 2 lists the 30 recommendations. It's around half, not exactly half, that are presented in this chapter, and Figure 9 shows how a potential future railway would look in 2050 if all these recommendations were delivered. The estimated capital, operating and maintenance costs of the infrastructure interventions presented in this chapter are summarized in Chapter 5. That'll be an interesting chapter to read. These costs exclude recommendations relating to freight access charges and customer experience. The key word there is that, or the key point there is that I think they will talk about freight access charges, but they won't be included in Chapter 5. Any option referenced in this chapter but not listed as a recommendation is not included in these costs. Statutory strategy alignment. Yeah, this one is kind of complicated. I'll summarize it at the end. The review notes that the Greater Dublin Area (GDA's) transport strategy has recently been adopted in accordance with Section 11 of the Dublin Transport Authority Act 2008. The strategy sets out a statutory framework for the development of transport across the Dublin region up to 2042. The recommendations set out in this chapter are intended, within the GDA, to represent potential additional complementary provision which could be considered for inclusion in future updates to the GDA transport strategy. It is acknowledged that this strategy is the statutory plan for the development of transport within the GDA. It is intended that this report will be an input for the next review of the GDA transport strategy within the next 6 years. Basically, it's saying we acknowledge that there is a transport strategy for Dublin, and we plan to be part of the consideration in the next review. That's kind of what that says in a lot more complicated words. Basically, we know that this transport strategy, we are not a transport strategy, but we want to be part of the next review. That's it. So, strategic environmental assessment and appropriate assessment. A strategic environmental assessment, SEA, not to be confused with Southeast Asia. An appropriate assessment, AA, not to be confused with Alcoholics Anonymous, of the All Island Strategic Rail Review have been carried out to ensure environmental considerations have been incorporated into the review. Any new projects or plans arising from the implementation of this review should be subject to appropriate feasibility, options, and environmental assessment where required. All mitigation measures outlined in the accompanying SEA environmental report and appropriate assessment report. That sentence is a bit confusing. It sounds like there's supposed to be more to it, but that is it. The relevant mitigation measures should be adhered to in full during the implementation of this review. And then there's a short summary of each of the sections before we actually get onto the gritty details. So the first part is decarbonisation recommendations. Develop and implement an all-island rail decarbonisation strategy that includes an electrified intercity network. I mean, really, the whole network should ideally be electrified at some point. I mean, you look at like Norway, Sweden, Finland. They've got those rail lines that go way up into the fucking Arctic Circle, right? And they're all electrified. You know, come fucking, it's -20 up there in the winter. They still run their trains on electric motors because, it's just a good infrastructure. Develop plans to invest in the skills, supply chains, and rolling stock to deliver decarbonisation. Procure hybrid and electric rolling stock in the medium term. Yeah, so the hybrid one, well, I mean, they've already started the order process for the electric rolling stock and possibly some hybrid ones too. Electric for sure with the DARE Plus program. And some of them are going to be battery electric, so they will be able to run both on batteries and overhead line electrification. Hybrid ones, I think, I'm not sure what they'd run on, but I think if they get any like diesel hybrid, the idea would be that in the medium term they would run as hybrid trains, electric when possible and diesel when necessary. But further down the line, they would take out the diesel engine and just have it run on electric. I believe that's what I think it is. Correct me if I'm wrong. It might be. Then intercity recommendations would be to upgrade the cross-country rail network to dual-track railway and four-track in some places, and increase service frequencies. Oh, yeah, gotta be dual-track. Like, I understand, single track is the bare minimum, but we should be doing a little bit more than the bare minimum. If it's you could get by with it in the 60s, the 70s, but not really anymore. It's overdue. Upgrade the core intercity railway network to top speeds of 200 kilometers an hour. Yeah, you got to make it a more viable solution than car. At least on the intercity connections, because most rail traffic will be between population centers, right? Or any traffic, really, not just rail. Develop short sections of new railways on congested corridors. Yeah, this confused me when I read it initially, but as this is my second time recording this part, you'll see later down, I'll point out in the map what that means, because it is a little bit kind of vague here. It sounds like they're just talking again about dual tracking it, but it's a bit more than that. And then develop a cross-Dublin solution, which is, I'd be interested to see what this is when they get into more of the details. And then regional and rural recommendations. Provide more direct services between Ireland's west and south coasts. Yeah, they say west. Well, west obviously it mostly refers to Galway and Limerick, because those are the only two cities in the west, really. South coasts, the southernmost coast is like southwest Cork, but like no one really lives there, and it's very hilly and not great land for building railways. Yeah, plus obviously, like, there's just not many people living there. So when they say south coast, they're more referring to like southeast, like Cork, Waterford, Wexford area, which is south too, but not south. Ensure regional and rural lines have at least one train for 2 hours. Yeah, gotta give them some service. You can't be just like, you can't build the lines and then just not give them any trains. You don't want to be running empty trains, but you want to be giving them viable options. Increase line speeds to at least 120 kilometers an hour. Yeah, like, you're giving them an option by building the rail, but you want to make it an attractive option too. And it won't be as many people as on intercity lines, but that doesn't mean that they should be totally neglected. Upgrade Limerick Junction and the Limerick Junction Waterford line. Yeah, Limerick Junction is gets a lot of traffic. Reinstate the Western Rail Corridor Railway between Claremorris and Athenry. Yeah, I will show that in the map as well. It's a nice little addition. Extend the railway into Tyrone, Derry, and Donegal. Reinstate the South Wexford Railway. Develop the railway to boost connectivity in the North Midlands. And then integrate bus service and rail service timetables to connect communities where direct rail access proves to be unviable. Yeah, I had a sneak peek earlier. I didn't read it, but they have a nice kind of map showing how they plan to do, like, catchment areas is the best way I can describe it. You'll see though. You'll see that'll be in part, like 4.4. I think this will be part 4.1. Decarbonization 4.2, intercity 4.3. That'll be 4.4. I'll number them like that so that it's obvious that they're still part of chapter 4, but that they're a separate part. Then sustainable cities recommendations. Connect Dublin, Belfast International, Shannon Airport to the railway and improve existing rail airport connections. Yeah, so that part about existing rail airport connections, like the existing rail airport connections they're referring to are Kerry Airport and George Best Belfast Airport, which Kerry Airport is technically doing better already because they have buses that go between the airport and the train station or pretty close by. George Best, they just tell you to walk from the train station to the airport. It'd be kind of cute if they did like, I don't know, like a monorail or something. Just slap it up there because it's like a busy road nearby. Slap a monorail going over the road. That'd be kind of cute. I don't think they'll do that, but it would be cute. Dublin Airport, obviously there's that line going to branch off from Clongriffin, or that they recommend to branch off from Clongriffin. Shannon Airport, that'll be a little branch from Limerick. Belfast International. Yeah, that one's interesting. So the nearest train station to Belfast International is in Antrim Town. This station here. Belfast International is here. The thing is that there is like a rail line that goes, from Antrim down here, follows the road, then goes right around Belfast International Airport, down to like Crumlin and further south. But I think it's a single track line. I'll show you what it looks like. Yeah, there it is. So it looks a wee bit rusty. There's no station, wee bit overgrown as well. There's no station in Crumlin, which was interesting. The line goes right through Crumlin here, but there's no station. And it goes further on down to Glenavi, and there's not really any station there that I could see anyway. It looks like it just goes straight past the town, further south to is that Ballinderry? Yeah. So the line exists. They just need to do like a little branch off from Belfast Airport because it goes right beside it. They're in a much better position to connect these to the railway than Dublin Airport, where there isn't. I mean, the nearest piece of track to Dublin Airport is like 6 kilometers away, and it's mostly fields in between, so you could do it. But like this, it literally skirts the edge of the airport. You know, it is single track, which isn't ideal, but they're in a good position to get some kind of rail connection going there. Alright, then freight recommendations. Develop a sustainable solution for first mile, last mile rail access for Dublin Port. Reduce track access charges for freight services. I don't know what they are currently. I hope they tell us. If they don't tell us, I'll go looking into it. But we'll talk about that when we get to that section. Strengthen rail connectivity to the island's busiest ports. Develop a network of inland terminals close to major cities on the rail network. And then the last section here, customer experience recommendations. Continue to invest in initiatives that deliver a seamless customer journey. So I guess that would refer to integrated ticketing, and making sure that like what's the word, like different modes connect and intersect to each other well. Continue to benchmark and monitor service quality and deliver continuous improvement. Actually, well, for ticketing, at least on seamless customer journey, not the Dart sorry, but like the Dublin area transport system is pretty seamless already in terms of ticketing. You just have a leave card, tap, tap, tap. I mean, if you're buying single tickets, like individual tickets, like a Lewis has a different type of ticket to the bus, which has a different type of ticket to the Dart. So that's not all that seamless. unless you're using a Leap card. But I think there are like tourist Leap cards. Anyone can buy a Leap card, really. It's, what's it, like €5 deposit on the card? You can buy them at like train stations and the machines. You can top it up pretty easily. You can top it up on your phone. You can top it up at a Lewis stop. You can top it up at a like the news agents. Top it up at a train station as well as buying it from one. Leap cards are great. If you're ever in Dublin, get a Leap card. Even if you're only there for a short while. And hold on to it as well, because they don't expire. I don't think they do. Then ensure future rolling stock specifications are aligned to the infrastructure-led interventions outlined in this review. Invest in improving integration within rail and between rail and other transport mode options. Yeah, sorry, that's what I was trying to talk about earlier. Integration in pursuit of a seamless customer journey. So one example of that would be Connolly Station. If you walk at the front door, there's a Lewis stop right there, and then there's also a Bus Éireann and a Dublin bus stop right outside the front. You can get several different, and also then across the road going the other way. So whatever the next part of your journey is, probably be able to catch it from there. Connolly is a great station. Deliver clock face timetable calling patterns, and then develop cross-border structures to improve the effectiveness of cross-border infrastructure and rail service planning. So I think initially this cross-border rail service planning and infrastructure like structures would apply to the enterprise from Belfast to Dublin, just because it's already in place and in operation. But getting a good like ground, or not ground, but like doing the groundwork there would mean that any other cross-border rail lines would be much easier to integrate. Like if they do a branch network off from Derry to Letterkenny, or there was one other line that crossed the border that I'll show you the map. And it would make having that groundwork done already on the enterprise line, which is already in operation. Well, yeah, it would make those other lines a lot easier to implement. So let's start from the top and we'll work our way down. So the one that stands out to me immediately is this little branch line from Derry to Letterkenny. Now they're calling it other decarbonised railways, and I think a good option there would be battery electric, at least initially. Getting an electrical line out there would be ideal in the long term, but just to get something. Actually, no, not even initially. If you're building a brand new line, because I understand if for example, on part of the Dart Plus Coastal North plan is that it's already electrified as far as Malahide, but they want to run it as far as Drogheda. And in order to get that up and running as fast as possible, what they want to do is get these battery electric trains that'll run using overhead line electricity up to Malahide, and then pull down the little I forget what it's called, the little yoke, and then run a battery power up to Drogheda. And the reason for that is they want to get that line up and running as fast as possible, but it's going to take longer for them to build the overhead line electrification infrastructure. But if they're building a brand new line out to Letterkenny, they're building the tracks anyway, why would they not just build the overhead line electrification at the same time? You've got the lads on the ground there already. Why not just Might take a little bit longer, yeah, but it's going to be worth it in the long run. Anyway, then there's this little branch line off to Limavady. That'd be cute. Then this one this one's a big one. Derry to Strabane, Omagh, Dungannon, Portadown. All dual track, fully electric. That'd be a nice line to have in there. And Portadown's going to become a real hub of transport. And also they want to put an inland terminal there too. Look at this. Portadown to Armagh to Monaghan to Clones to Cavan to Mullingar and everything in between. That would be a game changer. I've been to Monaghan before, and obviously I had to take the bus out there because there's no train. But if there was a train, even if it was a little bit more indirect, having to go to Mullingar and then up to Monaghan, I would have opted for that instead, just because it's a more pleasant journey than taking a bus. And then this line here from Belfast down to Dublin would be fully electrified. Then build a new line out from Newry to Belfast via Banbridge and Hillsborough. Oh, I guess this would be the airport line. Yeah, so from Antrim, which is the nearest station to the airport, they would, because there was a rail there already, they would reinstate this and then build a little station by the airport. Okay, okay. That makes sense. I like that. There's a mistake here. Malahide Malahide to the city is all electrified already. Because this pink color is supposed to represent electrification upgrade. And they'd be building a new line that would go from Drogheda to Clongriffin through inner Fingal. Most of the population in Fingal is kind of on the coast. This inner, oh, maybe we'll go through Swords. Oh, that would be cute actually. Swords would finally get a fucking train station. Swords is like biggest town in Fingal, and it's only served by bus. It's a bit desperate. And then this little branch line off from Clongriffin to the airport. And then connect Navan to Entry Parkway. That'd be nice. Electrify all of this. I think, I don't know how much of it is electrified already. Now this one confused me initially, but I think this is supposed to be Hope Junction to Dublin Port. I think they'll go into more detail. I hope so, anyway. Then this is that little Wexford line connecting Wexford to Waterford. It just makes sense. It's so close. Why would you not do that? And then this is another little line similar to this line here that goes from Hazelhatch to Portarlington to bypass Maynooth. Well, it connects to Maynooth too, but you can just bypass it. Gives you another route option on this is probably after Belfast to Dublin. Dublin to Cork would be the busiest route, intercity route. And obviously this would all be electrified. And then a little bypass route from for Limerick Junction, so you can Limerick Junction would be pretty busy, but if you're just going from Cork to Waterford, you can just skip past it. Nice little branch line out to Shannon and then out to Foynes, the port there. And then Kerry Airport, of course, is already served by train. Oh yeah, and this line here connecting Claremore to Athenry via Toome, that'd be nice. And then Athlone to Mullingar. I like all these interconnected sections of the line that are they're so close yet so far away when you're sticking to the rails, Otherwise, if you want to go from Mullingar to Athlone, you have to go all the way into Dublin and all the way back out. It's a bit poor at the moment, but it could be so much better if they follow this plan. Or at least some of it, Yeah, I yeah, it's it's ambitious for sure, but I think it's appropriately ambitious in that these are a lot of improvements that need to be made, and they're frankly overdue. I'd like to see a lot more electrification, to be honest, but I think at least electrifying the main intercity routes would be a major step in the right direction. I'm excited to read the rest of this report. This is as far as I've read so far now. I don't know what else is yet to come, but I'm liking it so far. Anyway, so this is I'll end here for now because the next section is decarbonization. Get a little sneak peek there. We'll get into that though in the next video. I'm gonna name this video chapter 4.1 because it's like the maybe 4.0 is the introduction to the chapter, and then I'll do 4.1 because decarbonization is the first section of it. And I'll name the other videos accordingly. But thanks for tuning in again, and I'll see you in the next one.